Well, as you already know, if you've been paying any attention at all, the Southern Poverty Law Center is an entirely fraudulent enterprise. The organization has nothing to do with the South or with poverty. It's a left-wing political group that uses hate crime designations to target its ideological enemies and to crush people. In 2012, the SPLC inspired a shooting attack on the Family Research Council by labeling the innocuous Christian organization a hate group. Just last month, the SPLC paid $3.3 million for falsely calling the Quilliam Foundation, quote, anti-Muslim extremists. We could go on. The Southern Poverty Law Center lies. They are utterly reckless, and they're totally dishonest. With that in mind, it was shocking to discover, as jaded as we are, and this show has discovered it exclusively, that the FBI has a long history of collaborating with the Southern Poverty Law Center. In 2009, for example, the FBI called the SPLC, quote, a well-known, established, and credible organization that monitors domestic terrorism in the U.S. The SPLC repeatedly has been allowed to brief FBI personnel on alleged terror threats to this country. Disturbingly, though, this relationship is ongoing, if you can believe it. Despite multiple requests from this program, the FBI has refused to describe the extent of its collaboration with the SPLC, we've asked repeatedly, or even to explain why it continues to work with a group like that. Instead, we've received meaningless and mindless boilerplate statements like this one, quote, for many years, the FBI has engaged with various organizations, both formally and informally. Such outreach is a critical component of the FBI's mission, and we welcome information from these organizations on any possible violation of civil rights, hate crimes, or other potential crimes or threats. We do, however, evaluate our relationships with these groups as necessary to ensure the appropriateness of any interaction. Again, mindless pap that does not answer the question. We can report tonight that Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida has sent a letter to FBI leadership asking them to explain their relationship with the SPLC, which is obviously very troubling, to put it mildly. Then tonight, the DOJ gave us another statement. This one said, quote, the Attorney General has directed the FBI to reevaluate their relationships with groups like this, the SPLC, to ensure the FBI does not partner with any group that discriminates, end quote, as the SPLC certainly does. Maajid Nawaz is the founder of Quilliam. He just received that settlement we mentioned from the SPLC after they libeled him as an extremist. He's also the author of a tremendous book called Radical, My Journey Out of Islamist Extremism. Maajid Nawaz joins us tonight. Thanks very much for coming on. So it was partly from watching what they did to you that had us asking the question, well, you know, to what extent are they involved with the federal government? And we discovered this. But tell our viewers who maybe haven't followed this as closely your experience with the SPLC.
Well, it's curious and fascinating at the same time because I have been born and raised a Muslim. I spent my teenage years, in fact, with an Islamist organization seeking to enforce Sharia law in Muslim-majority societies because I got radicalized. I ended up as a political prisoner in Egypt for my beliefs, and it was in jail that I reformed my views and came out vowing to challenge Islamist extremism and founded Quilliam in 2008 and have been doing so now for 10 years. And the Southern Poverty Law Center decided to compile a list of what they deemed as anti-Muslim extremists, and the oddity, the sheer oddity of placing a Muslim on a list of anti-Muslim extremists is what led me to then say, I need justice in this case, because my entire life, Tucker, has been defined by my struggle, and I got it wrong initially. I've been open about that. I wrote about it in my book. My struggle to find a place for Muslims in the West that is at home with the West. And so to undermine my entire life's work by placing me on a list of anti-Muslim extremists, I found a step too far, and that's why I went to lawyers and got advice, and it's why we took the action we did.
And I can say, as someone who's interviewed scores of people like you, I think you are one of the most restrained and thoughtful and reasonable people on this topic I've ever interviewed. So to call you an extremist is very odd and dishonest. Well, so what effect did it have on you? Once a group like this defines you as an extremist, I mean, that's got to hurt your foundation, I would think.
Well, first of all, I've got to say it places a target on the heads. Look, it's no secret. It's already hard enough for Muslim reformers, liberal Muslim reformers, to speak out against extremism within our communities. People that do so are often targeted and often killed. There was a similar list that was published in Bangladesh against so-called Muslim heretics, and many of them were knocked off, assassinated by jihadists because they were deemed to be blasphemous or heretical. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who has since sought refuge in the United States of America,
yes.
her close friend, a film director, Theo van Gogh, was murdered on the streets of Amsterdam, and then a list was stabbed into his body, and it named Ayaan as being next. That's what we're up against here. And so the first thing it did is it placed me in grave danger. It placed Ayaan Hirsi Ali in grave danger because she was also named on this list. But it also had material consequences. When they did what they did, the reason they produced these lists is to convince media and to convince philanthropists and foundations not to give grants to these sorts of people or these organizations. And it did have those kind of material consequences for us as well. And it's why we couldn't just lie back and take this at face value as it was. We had to take action.
And I'm glad that you did. And the fact that our FBI is collaborating with a group this discredited and reckless is really scary. Thank you very much for your account. I appreciate that. And congratulations on winning. You deserve it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.